Hey there, you guys. So I just want to talk just a little bit about discussion boards now that you guys have completed your first one. I wanted to see, without further guidance and the instructions, how you would do. And I've gotten through grading about half of them, so I have a good understanding of maybe where we're struggling, where things are going well. So I wanted to post this video. So first off, I just wanted to talk briefly about grading for the discussion boards. Keep in mind that we have a discussion board portfolio at the end of term. We haven't talked much about that, but the way that I grade is largely based on the fact that we do have that portfolio. So with the first two discussion boards, this week's and next week's, you'll have detailed comments in the overall comments section. You'll also have grades scored with the discussion board rubric. All right, after the first 2 weeks, you'll only get grades scored in the discussion board rubric. If you have questions about why your score is what it is on a particular discussion board, just email me. We can talk about it. Okay, but the reason for, I guess, that lack of transparency is that I want you to think about it, and I want you to identify, okay, so I had issues in my first response post. What issues were they? How could I have developed it? How can I strengthen it? Once you get my comments from the first two, that should give you a really good idea of what I'm expecting. So I want you to make sure that you utilize that kind of thinking going forward. All right, the other things that I wanted to point out, these are the most common issues that I'm noticing so far, so I want to bring them to your attention right away. Okay, first off, in your initial post, make sure to include a reference to every source that we read for that week, unless the question asks otherwise. Okay, so, I'm getting a lot of responses that discuss 2 of the readings that we did for this week. Well, we had 4, right? So you need to show different perspectives, right? It's important to keep in mind that, Columbus went to the Bahamas while Cabeza de Vaca landed in northern Florida. The Yuki tribe, is based a little bit further north. And then the Lenni Lenape tribe is even further north, right into Connecticut and New York. All right, so they were interacting with different groups of people. The Lenni Lenape tribe specifically, they were interacting with the Dutch, whereas Columbus and Cabeza de Vaca were sent by Spain, right? So there's different interests at play. It's important to factor them all in to create a nuanced response. The other thing that I want to point out is in your response posts, make sure that you are responding clearly, not just, oh yeah, I agree because this general piece of evidence that can apply to almost anything, right? I want specific evidence that helps advance the point that your peer is making. If you disagree with them, absolutely amazing. Share why you disagree. That's the kind of thing I want to see in your responses. This needs to be a critical response that is really clearly identifying why you believe the way you do. This is practice for, all of your other bigger assignments, or I don't want to say bigger, major assignments throughout the term. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Always back up anything you say with specific evidence to source material rather than this kind of vague evidence to source material. All right. The other thing I want to point out is citations. Whenever you are referencing, make sure that if you're using word-for-word language from a source, you use quotation marks, okay? And then include an in-text citation at the end of the sentence. That's really important to not only show, hey, this isn't my language, this is language from the source, and this is where I found it, right? You need to show both. When it comes to paraphrasing, you want to make sure that you're saying, hey, this is the idea from the source, but not using the same language and not using the same sentence structure. Okay, people miss out on that last part a lot. You can't use the same sentence structure as your source material, or it's considered plagiarism, right? At that point, you should just quote, right? It's not just about swapping words in and out. All right, so really keep that in mind. Both quotations and paraphrases require in-text citations. So I want to say something really quickly about in-text citation formatting. I have done my best to make this as easy as possible without just giving you the citations. On the bottom of each reading, in the footer of the document, you'll see a works cited citation. All right, your in-text citations come directly from that. So if you look, for example, at Columbus, right? We have Columbus right here. You see the works cited citation right at the bottom. We see it starts with Columbus. Okay, so we really want to make sure that that's what's in our in-text citation. The other thing that you'll notice is that this document doesn't have page numbers, right? There's no page numbers anywhere. So if there's no page number, you can't cite to a page number. So a citation for the source by Columbus would just be Columbus in parentheses, right? Because there's no more specific way to cite that. Now, if it comes to an example of Indian account of the first arrival of the Dutch at New York Island, you can see that that works cited citation looks a little bit different, right? There's no author, right, which could pose a challenge, except it doesn't, because you just use the first part of that works cited citation no matter what it is. In this case, it's Indian account of the first arrival of the Dutch at New York Island in quotation marks. Okay, you have to represent the quotation marks if they're present. So with this source, you can see on the top right there is a page number, so you'll want to cite it. Say, for example, you got a quote or paraphrase from page 5. You would open parentheses, quotation mark, Indian account of the first arrival of the Dutch at New York Island, close your quotation mark, space 1, close parentheses. All right, so that's how you create an in-text citation using a works cited citation, right? It's just that first element, right, before a period or comma, right? You want to make sure that you've used that first chunk, and that's the big thing. All right, so I just wanted to point those things out. Make sure to develop your ideas, back them up with sufficient evidence, make sure you cite them properly, quote them properly, because we're practicing all of our skills for the major assignments throughout the course. All right, so hopefully that's really helpful. Have a great rest of your day, you guys, and I'll see you next time.